The night was quiet on the edge of the human colony, where Daniel lived alone in his small workshop. The colony was far from the busy cities, surrounded by forests and rocky hills. Daniel liked the peace. He worked as a machine repairman, fixing old tech and broken tools for passing travelers. But that night, something felt different. His motion sensors beeped softly. The screen showed a figure walking slowly toward his workshop. It was strange. No one ever came this deep into the forest. At night, Daniel grabbed his old plasma wrench, just in case, and stepped outside. Under the pale light of the moons, he saw her, tall, graceful, and glowing faintly under the silver light. Her skin shimmered like polished silver, her hair a flowing cascade of soft blue, and her eyes, deep violet, almost hypnotic. Daniel froze. He had never seen a being like her before. She was clearly not human, but there was something familiar in her gaze. She stopped a few steps away, looking at him as if she knew him deeply. Then she spoke, her voice soft but clear. "Do you recognize me, human? I'm your childhood neighbor." Daniel blinked. What? That made no sense. He grew up here, but there were never aliens in the colony, not that he remembered. He kept his grip tight on the wrench. Who? Who are you really? Daniel asked, his voice uncertain. She smiled gently, though her eyes looked tired. I am Lyra. We used to play together. When we were children, don't you remember the secret garden? The old tree? The songs we used to sing? Daniel shook his head slowly. No, I don't remember any of that. I would remember meeting someone like you. Lyra took another step forward, her legs shaking slightly. They erased your memories to protect you, but I couldn't forget. I came back to find you. Before Daniel could ask more, Lyra's knees gave out. She collapsed to the ground, her body weak and trembling. Hey, Daniel rushed to her side, his caution fading. He caught her just in time, feeling how cold her skin was. She was burning with fever, or maybe something worse. Stay awake, Daniel said, shaking her gently, but her eyes closed, without thinking. Further, Daniel carried her inside his workshop. He placed her on the old couch, covering her with a thermal blanket. He checked her vitals with a small scanner. Her biology was strange. Nothing like a human, but she was definitely alive, just weak, dehydrated, and exhausted. As she rested, she murmured words in her sleep. Strange words, yet Daniel felt a weird pull in his mind, as if he almost understood them. Then she hummed, a melody so soft, so familiar. Daniel paused, listening. Where had he heard that song before? He didn't know. But something deep in his mind stirred, an old, buried feeling. Hours passed, and finally, Lyra opened her eyes again. She smiled weakly. You're still here, she whispered. Yeah, Daniel said. You collapsed. What happened to you? And why are you saying we knew each other? I don't remember you. Lyra took a deep breath. Because you're not supposed to remember. They made sure of it, but I never forgot you, Daniel. How do you know my name? You told me. Long ago. We were children then, before they came. Before they took you away from me. Daniel stared at her, confused and curious. Took me? Who? What are you talking about? Lyra's eyes looked sad. There are things moving in the dark, Daniel. Old threats. They took many children from human colonies in secret, but you were special. My people tried to protect you, but they failed. You were hidden, your memories locked, so they wouldn't find you again. Who are they? Lyra looked away, her voice barely a whisper. The collectors. The word made Daniel shiver, though he didn't know why. He had never heard of them, or so he thought. You came all this way just to find me? He asked, his voice quieter. Lyra nodded. Yes, because I made a promise. That I would find you. And keep you safe. And now that I found you, I fear I'm already too late. Daniel sat back, his mind racing. Was she telling the truth? Could his memories really have been erased? And if so, why was he important to her? To anyone? But one thing was clear, she was no threat to him. She was weak, hurt, but determined. And somehow, she knew things about him that no stranger should doubt his. The night grew deeper. Daniel sat watching over her, the questions piling in his mind. He had lived alone for years, fixing machines and surviving quietly. But now, with one sentence from an alien beauty, his quiet life was about to change forever. He didn't know it yet, but his forgotten past was waking up, and something dangerous was already coming for him. Morning light crept into Daniel's workshop, but he barely slept. His eyes stayed on the strange alien woman resting on his couch, Lyra. Her words repeated in his mind. "Do you recognize me? Human? I'm your childhood neighbor." But Daniel remembered no such thing. His childhood had always been quiet. Lonely even. No alien friends, no secret garden. No memories of anything strange. Yet when Lyra had hummed that soft tune in her sleep, something inside him stirred, a memory that felt close, but refused to surface out by sunrise. Lyra woke up. Slowly. She looked better, her silver skin glowing faintly in the light. Daniel made a simple drink, some rehydration mix, and handed it to her. "Here, you looked like you were going to die on my doorstep." Lyra smiled faintly. "Thank you. I didn't expect to survive the journey. I was running out of time." Daniel sat across from her. "All right, start talking. How do you know me? What's this about me being taken or protected?" "I don't remember anything about you, Lyra." She sipped slowly, then looked up at him with sad eyes. "You don't remember? Because they made. Sure you wouldn't. But I do. I remember everything." Daniel frowned. "Explain." Lyra closed her eyes for a moment, then said, "You and I grew up together, not too far from here. Your family moved to this colony when you were small. My people were already here, disguised, hiding among humans. Our species can blend in. With appearance filters." Daniel blinked. "You looked human?" She nodded. "Yes, and as children we played together. There was a place, a hidden garden deep in the woods. We called it the Moonlight Hollow. We'd go there to play, explore, and talk about the stars." Daniel shook his head slowly. "I don't remember that." Lyra smiled gently. "You used to call me Lily, because Lyra was hard for you to say back then." Daniel paused. That name, Lily, stirred something. Like an echo of a dream. She continued. "One day I showed you who I really was, my true form. You weren't scared. You promised to keep it secret." Daniel rubbed his temples. It sounded crazy. But the way she said it, the look in her eyes, it felt real. Then what happened? Lyra's expression darkened. One night, children started disappearing from the colony. Quietly, no one knew why. But the elders of my people knew. The collectors had come. Daniel leaned forward. "You mentioned them last night. Who are they?" Lyra's voice was low. "They are an ancient species. They harvest unique humans, ones with rare genetic patterns. You were one of them, special, marked by them." Daniel stared at her. "You're saying I was marked?" She nodded. "Yes, I begged the elders to save you. They agreed to hide you, but only if your memories were sealed. They made you forget me, forget everything about the garden, the hollow, even the danger. That way, you'd be safe, hidden in plain sight." Daniel felt dizzy. "That can't be. I'd remember something." "Anything," Lyra shook her head. "Not if the memory lock was deep enough, but..." She looked at him carefully. "Sometimes memories leak through like dreams. Have you ever dreamed of a silver tree? A garden with floating lights? A girl named Lily?" Daniel froze. His mouth went dry. Yes, he had dreamed of a place like that, but he always thought it was just imagination. A glowing silver tree under the moons, and a shadowy figure who laughed and called him by name. Lyra saw his face change. She smiled faintly. "You do remember, even if just a little." But that was just a dream. No, Daniel, that was us. He leaned back, overwhelmed. Okay. Let's say I believe you. Why now? Why after all these years? Lyra's face grew serious. Because the collectors are back. And they're looking for you again. Daniel's heart pounded. Why me? Because you are one of the last. Most of the other marked children were taken years ago. You're one of the few left. And if they find you, they'll harvest what's inside you. Daniel's mind raced. This was too much. Too strange. And yet, deep down, he felt it. Like an itch in the back of his mind. Pieces trying to fit together. What do I have that they want? Lyra shook her head. I don't know, but I know that you're important. To them, to me. And if I don't protect you, they'll come. They always do. Daniel stood up, pacing. And how do you know they're back? Lyra's eyes turned sad. Because they chased me. I barely escaped them to get here. But I fear I might have led them right to you. As if to answer her words, Daniel's old radar monitor suddenly beeped loudly. Multiple signals. In the sky. Unregistered ships entering the atmosphere. Stealth craft. Daniel stared at the screen. Someone, or something, was coming. Lyra's voice was soft but firm. It's them. Daniel looked at her, then back at the radar. He didn't know if he could believe all of this, but he knew one thing for sure. He was no longer alone. And his past was about to catch up to him. Daniel stared at the radar screen. Red dots blinked like warnings. Several unidentified ships had entered the atmosphere. Silent, fast, and without any official clearance. Lyra stood up slowly, watching the screen with heavy eyes. She whispered, "They found you. I was too late." Daniel's mind raced. A day ago, he was just a repairman living in peace. Now he was being hunted by alien ships. And next to him stood an alien woman claiming to be his childhood friend, one he couldn't even remember. "Tell me everything," Daniel demanded. "No more puzzles. I want to know why I'm important. And what the hell collectors really are." Lyra nodded, sitting down with a sigh. Her voice was soft but steady. A long time ago, before humans even traveled to space, the collectors existed. No one knows where they came from. They move from world to world, searching for certain people, those born with special genetic gifts, gifts that can change the future of entire species. Daniel frowned. What kind of gifts? No one knows for sure, Lyra replied. Some say these humans have abilities locked in their DNA, abilities that, if awakened, could make them stronger, faster, smarter, even capable of things beyond normal science. Daniel shook his head. "You're telling me I've got superpowers inside me?" Lyra smiled faintly. "Not exactly. But something in your blood, your genes, it calls to them. The collectors don't just want it, they need it." Daniel's hands tightened into fists. "And what do they do with people like me?" Lyra's eyes darkened. "They take them, harvest their genetics. Sometimes they experiment on them. Sometimes they just erase them." Daniel felt sick. "And the disappearing children?" Lyra looked away. "Decades ago, the collectors found this colony. Children began vanishing. People blamed accidents, wild animals, kidnappers. But my people knew the truth. The collectors had come, searching for gifted children." Daniel's heart sank. Why didn't anyone stop them? "We tried," Lyra whispered. "My people tried to protect the colony in secret. We disguised ourselves, watching over the humans, hiding the marked ones, but we couldn't save them all." She looked at Daniel with sad eyes. "You were marked too, but your parents were warned. They begged my people to save you. That's when the memory lock was placed, to make sure even if the collectors scanned you, your mind would show nothing unusual." Daniel sat down heavily. "And you knew me before?" Lyra smiled softly. "Yes, we played together. I taught you songs from my world. We made promises under the silver tree in the garden. Daniel closed his eyes. Fragments flashed in his mind, a garden glowing. Under twin moons, a girl's laughter, a tree with silver leaves. But the images were blurry, like trying to remember a dream. And the garden, it's real? Lyra nodded. Yes, it still exists, hidden deep in the forest. We called it the Moonlight Hollow. Daniel looked back at the radar screen. The ships were getting closer. Time was running out. He stood up. Take me there. Lyra blinked. What? The garden? If it's where my memories are buried, maybe we'll find answers there. Lyra hesitated. It could be dangerous, Daniel chuckled dryly. Staying here is dangerous too. If they're coming for me, I want to know why. I want to remember. Lyra's eyes softened. All right. I'll take you. Daniel grabbed his old pulse pistol from the shelf. He rarely used it, but tonight felt different. He stuffed a few tools and power cells into a bag. As they stepped outside, the sky was darker than usual. No stars, just shadows moving across the sky, ships cloaked in stealth, hunting silently. Lyra led the way into the forest. She moved gracefully, her feet barely making a sound. Daniel followed close, his heart pounding. Every crack of a branch, every distant sound made his skin crawl. After nearly an hour of walking, the trees began to change. The air grew cooler, and a soft light shimmered ahead. Then he saw it, the Moonlight Hollow. It was breathtaking. A wide clearing surrounded by tall trees with glowing leaves. In the center stood the silver tree, just like in his dreams. Its branches stretched wide, shimmering under the twin moons, and around it floated tiny lights, like glowing insects dancing in the air. Daniel stood frozen. The place was real. Memories tugged at his mind. A boy laughing, a girl humming, hands holding under the tree. He touched the trunk of the silver tree, and suddenly, a flash burned through his mind. Visions. A small version of himself running with a girl. Lyra, disguised as a human girl. Singing songs. Making a promise to never forget each other. Daniel gasped, stumbling back. Lyra caught him. It's starting. Your memories are waking up. But before he could say anything, a deep humming sound echoed through the air. They both looked up. Ships. Dark, sharp, like blades in the sky. Dropping fast. Lyra's face turned grim. They've tracked us. Daniel's pulse raced. What do we do? Lyra's eyes glowed faintly. We fight. And if you're ready, maybe you'll remember why you were special enough for them to hunt. As the collectors landed in the distance, Daniel stood ready, gripping his pistol. He didn't know who he really was. But tonight he was going to find out. Hook for next part. What will Daniel uncover in the hollow? And will his buried abilities awaken in time to survive the coming attack? The silver tree stood tall under the twin moons, its glowing leaves whispering in the wind. Around it, tiny orbs of light floated like soft lanterns. Daniel stood under the tree, his hand still pressed against its cold bark. His mind burned with fragments of memory. Laughter, a girl named Lily running through this very garden. It was still broken, like a puzzle with missing pieces. Lyra stood beside him, her violet eyes fixed on the sky. The shadows of the collector ships were getting closer, dark shapes like sharp claws preparing to grab. We don't have much time, Lyra said softly. The tree. It might help you remember everything. It was always connected to you. Daniel looked up at the tree. How? Lyra placed her hand next to his on the bark. This tree is ancient. It's not just a plant. It stores memories, imprints of those who touch it with honest hearts. Daniel raised an eyebrow. You're saying the tree remembers me? Yes, Lyra said. And if you let it, it can show you who you were before. And who you were. Meant to be. Daniel chuckled nervously. That's a lot to ask from a tree. Lyra smiled faintly. You always joke like that. Some things never change. Suddenly, the air shimmered. The ground near the tree lit up with faint symbols, carvings, glowing softly beneath the grass. Daniel stepped back. "What's happening?" Lyra's voice was calm. "The tree remembers you." Then a pulse of light spread out from the trunk, engulfing Daniel. His vision blurred, and then he wasn't in the garden anymore. He stood in the same place, but younger, a boy of 6 or 7. Beside him, a little girl with dark hair and kind eyes, Lyra in her human form. They laughed, running around the tree, playing games, singing songs. Then, a different memory, Lyra showing her real alien form to him for the first time. Young Daniel was scared for a second, but then smiled and hugged her. "You're still Lily," he had said in the memory, "even if you look different." Then another memory, his parents arguing with tall cloaked figures. The word collectors was spoken in whispers. His father shouted, "You're not taking my son." Then, pain, a bright light, a voice saying, "He will forget. He must forget to survive." And darkness. Daniel gasped, falling to his knees. He was back in the present, his head pounding. I remember," he whispered. "They tried to take me. My parents stopped them, but someone erased my memories." Lyra knelt next to him. "Yes, the elders. They thought it was the only way." Daniel looked up at her, anger and sadness mixing inside. "And you? Why did you stay away?" Lyra's eyes glistened. "I wasn't allowed to see you again. My people thought I'd interfere, but I promised myself that one day I'd find you." Before Daniel could respond, a sharp noise cracked through the air, engines roaring. The collector ships broke. Through the clouds, dark and menacing, figures in black armor dropped from the sky, landing around the garden. Their faces were hidden, but their eyes glowed red. One of them stepped forward, its voice metallic and cold. "Subject located. Genetic signature confirmed. Prepare for extraction." Daniel stood up, heart racing. "I'm not going anywhere with you." The collector tilted its head. "You have no choice, human." But before they could move, Lyra stepped between them. Her body shimmered, silver skin now glowing brighter, and armor forming around her like liquid metal. "You'll have to go through me," she declared. The collector chuckled. "Irrelevant. You are not a threat." Lyra smiled faintly. "You don't know me." With a flash, she leapt forward, striking the nearest collector with a burst of energy. The fight began. Daniel watched, stunned, as Lyra moved like lightning, striking and dodging, but there were too many. They began to circle. One of the collectors pointed at Daniel. "The subject is awakening. We must not delay." Daniel felt something burning inside him, a warmth spreading from his chest to his limbs. His vision sharpened, sounds became clearer, his muscles tensed with new strength. Without thinking, he picked up a heavy rock and hurled it, smashing into a collector's helmet, sending it crashing to the ground. Lyra glanced back, surprised. Daniel stared at his own hands. What's happening to me?" Lyra smiled through her battle. "You're awakening. Your real self is waking up." The collectors didn't wait. Two lunged at Daniel, but this time, he moved faster than he ever had. He dodged, grabbed one by the arm, and flipped it to the ground. He didn't know how he was doing it, but his body remembered. Even if his mind didn't, the collector leader roared, "The human is activating. Take him down." But before they could, the ground beneath the tree pulsed again. The symbols lit brighter, and the silver tree unleashed a wave of light that blasted outward, throwing the collectors back. They screeched in frustration. Regrouping, Lyra stood beside Daniel, breathing heavily. "You see now? You're not just human. You're something more." Daniel clenched his fists, feeling the power surging within. He wasn't just a mechanic anymore. He looked at the tree, then at the attackers. "I remember enough," he said. "And I'm not running," Lyra smiled. "Good, because this fight is far from over." Above them, More collector ships circled like vultures. Daniel was ready to face them. He had questions, he had power, and he had an old friend by his side. The night sky was no longer peaceful. It was filled with shadows. Collector ships hovered above the forest, engines humming low and dangerous. Daniel stood beside Lyra in the glowing garden, the silver tree pulsing behind them. The ground was littered with broken branches, scorched earth, and the bodies of 2 fallen collectors, but more were coming. They won't stop, Lyra warned, her voice firm. They've waited too long to let you escape now. Daniel wiped the sweat from his brow, still feeling the strange power inside him, the strength, the speed, the sharp senses. But he didn't know how to control it. His body moved on instinct. How many are there? He asked. Lyra looked up. Too many. But I'll hold them off. Daniel shook his head. No, we fight together. A distant sound echoed, a deep metallic roar, like machinery grinding. Then, from the tree line, more armored collectors emerged, their red eyes glowing like evil stars. But this time, they didn't come alone. A towering figure marched between them, bigger than the rest, nearly twice Daniel's size. Its armor was black with gold markings, and its face was covered by a sharp-edged mask. Lyra's eyes widened. The Hunter Prime, Daniel frowned. What's that? Their leader, a perfected warrior. He only comes when the target is too important to fail. The Hunter Prime stopped a few meters away and spoke in a deep, growling voice. Human. You carry the Prime gene. It belongs to us. Daniel narrowed his eyes. I don't belong to anyone. The Hunter Prime tilted its head. Your ancestors were crafted. You are the last spark of a forgotten project. With you, we complete our collection. Daniel looked at Lyra. What is he talking about? Lyra clenched her fists. The Prime gene. It's a rare human mutation. It holds the potential to evolve beyond any species. Stronger, faster, smarter, but unstable unless guided. Daniel scoffed. And they want to guide it by dissecting me, right? Correct, the Hunter Prime said coldly. You are raw material. Nothing more. Daniel's blood boiled. He stepped forward. If I'm just raw material, let's see you. Try to take me. The Hunter Prime raised a hand. The collectors charged. Lyra activated her armor, silver plates forming across her body. She dashed forward, slamming into the first wave, fists glowing with energy. Daniel took a deep breath. The power inside him felt wild, untamed, but he couldn't hesitate. He picked up the fallen collector's weapon, a sleek pulse rifle, and fired. Blue bolts shot through the air, striking down 2 enemies. Daniel moved quickly, faster than he ever imagined possible. Every time one came close, his reflexes guided him. Ducking, dodging, striking back. Lyra fought fiercely, but the numbers were endless. She gritted her teeth, swinging her energy blades, cutting down foes, but more filled their place. Then the Hunter Prime moved, fast, despite its size. In a blink, it was in front of Daniel, grabbing him by the throat and lifting him off the ground. Daniel gasped, struggling, his feet kicking. I will end this, the Hunter Prime said, his grip tightening. You are valuable, but dead or alive, we can still extract your essence. Lyra screamed, running toward them, but a blast from another collector threw her aside. Daniel's vision blurred. He couldn't breathe. But deep inside, that burning power flared again. His veins felt like fire, his muscles tensed. Then his eyes flashed, golden light erupting from them. The Hunter Prime hesitated. What? With a roar, Daniel grabbed the Prime's armored wrist and squeezed. To the shock of both, the metal groaned and cracked under Daniel's grip. No more running. Daniel growled. With a surge of strength, he broke free, landing hard on his feet. Without thinking, he punched the Hunter Prime's chest. The impact sent shockwaves, knocking the massive alien back several meters. The other collectors paused, Confused, Lyra's eyes widened. You're unlocking it. The prime gene is waking. Daniel's body felt lighter, stronger. His senses were clearer. He could hear the hum of every ship above, the heartbeat of every enemy around. The Hunter Prime stood up, dented but smiling. Beneath his mask, "Good," it growled. "Now you're worth killing." It charged again, faster this time. Daniel braced himself, dodging the first strike and countering with a powerful kick that sent the Prime crashing into a tree. Lyra stood up, running to Daniel's side. "We have to finish this now," she said. Daniel nodded. "I'm ready." Together, they fought. Daniel with his newfound strength, Lyra with her alien skills and energy blades. The collectors attacked in waves, but now they were losing ground. The silver tree glowed brighter, as if cheering them on. Finally, the Hunter Prime stood alone, battered, sparks flying from his damaged armor. "This isn't over, human," the Prime hissed. "You've awakened, but you don't know the cost yet." With a signal, the remaining collectors retreated, disappearing into their ships, fleeing into the night sky. Silence returned to the garden. Daniel stood, chest heaving, still glowing. Faintly with power, Lyra smiled, exhausted. "You did it. You survived." Daniel looked up at the stars. "They'll be back." "Yes," Lyra said softly. "But now, they know you're not just prey." Daniel nodded. "And next time, I'll be ready." But deep inside, he wondered, if the prime gene was waking, what else was hidden within him? The night had quieted, but the air still vibrated with the memory of battle. The collector ships were gone, leaving behind broken ground, scorched trees, and silence. Daniel stood at the center of the garden, his chest still rising and falling fast. His veins still burned faintly, as if something inside refused to settle. Lyra approached slowly, her silver armor shimmering under the twin moons. She studied Daniel with awe. "You're changing," she said softly. "The prime gene is waking. Fully now, I can feel it from here." Daniel wiped blood from his lip, still gripping the collector's fallen weapon. "What does that even mean? What is this power? I've never felt anything like it." Lyra stepped closer. "Because you were born with something no ordinary human has, an ancient code buried deep in your DNA. A code that can transform you." "Into what?" Daniel asked. Lyra looked serious. "A weapon." Daniel's eyes darkened. "I'm not a weapon." "But that's what the collectors wanted," Lyra explained. "Your ancestors long ago were part of a human project, a secret experiment designed to create the ultimate defender of humanity. A living weapon, capable of adapting, surviving, and defeating any threat." Daniel stared at his hand, still glowing faintly. "Why me?" Lyra smiled faintly. "Because you survived. You're the last one. All others were taken, harvested, or erased. You're the final product, whether you like it or not." Daniel's mind raced. A part of him wanted to deny it, but his body told him otherwise. The power, the speed, the senses, it wasn't normal. It wasn't just adrenaline. It was awake. Lyra continued. "That's why I came back for you, Daniel. Not just because I promised, but because if you awaken fully, you could be the one thing that stops the collectors forever." Daniel chuckled bitterly. "Great, no pressure." They both sat under the silver tree, its glowing leaves gently swaying. Lyra's voice softened. "You weren't just important to me because of the gene. We were close. As children, you promised me that one day you'd protect me. I held on to that." Daniel looked at her, his memories blurry but slowly returning, flashes of a little girl, laughter, promises made under this very tree. "I don't remember everything yet," Daniel admitted. "But I believe you." Lyra smiled warmly. "That's enough." Just then, Daniel's scanner beeped faintly. He pulled it out. More signals, not collectors, but something else. A large presence approaching from the east. Lyra frowned. "What is it?" Daniel adjusted the scanner. A convoy. Human signatures. Maybe colony security. Lyra shook her head. If the collectors scared them off before, why come now? Moments later, bright lights appeared between the trees. Vehicles, armed troops, all human. Daniel stood up, weapon ready. But then a familiar voice called out, "Daniel Morgan." "Stand down. This is Commander Reese, Colony Defense." Daniel lowered his weapon slightly. "What the hell?" "Commander." Reese, a tall woman with sharp features, approached. "We picked up combat signals from this sector. What happened?" Daniel hesitated, then said, "We were attacked. Alien ships." "Something called the Collectors." Reese's face darkened. "We suspected they'd return." Daniel frowned. "You knew?" Reese glanced at Lyra suspiciously. "The Prime Gene project wasn't just a myth. The colony's been keeping an eye on potential subjects, you included." Daniel stepped forward. "You watched me my whole life?" Reese sighed. "To protect you. The Collectors have been after the Prime Gene for decades. We couldn't interfere openly." Daniel's fists clenched. "I could have died tonight, but you didn't," Reese replied. "Because you awakened." Daniel looked back at Lyra, then at Reese. "So now what? You want to control me too?" "Like the Collectors?" Reese shook her head. "No, we want you trained. Prepared. If they come again, you'll need more than luck and half-awakened powers." Daniel chuckled darkly. "And what if I say no?" Reese looked him dead in the eye. "Then they'll come back and you'll die. Or worse, they'll take you. We can't afford that." Daniel looked at Lyra. She nodded slowly. "She's right. You have to master what's inside you, or it'll consume you." Daniel sighed. "Fine, but on my terms." Reese nodded. "Agreed. But you'll need a guide." Daniel smiled faintly. "I already have one." Lyra stepped closer, her eyes glowing warmly. Reese smirked. "Good. Then let's move. The Collectors will return, and next time, they'll bring an army." Daniel looked up at the stars. He had no idea what lay ahead. But for the first time, he wasn't afraid. He wasn't just a mechanic anymore. He was a weapon, and he was going to make sure the next time they came, they'd regret ever hunting a human. Asterisk. Days that followed felt like waking into a different life. Daniel was no longer just a mechanic. He was a marked man, a human weapon in the making. Commander Reese and her colony forces set up a secure camp near the Moonlight Hollow. They ran scans, checked the battle damage, and monitored the sky for signs of the Collectors returning. But the real work happened in secret. Every day, Lyra trained Daniel in the garden beneath the silver tree. She pushed him to test his strength, his speed, his instincts. At first, Daniel struggled. His powers would flare randomly. Sometimes his punches cracked stones. Other times his legs moved too fast for his mind to keep up, causing him to stumble and fall. Lyra guided him patiently. "You can't think of it like regular strength, Daniel. The Prime Gene doesn't wait for you to decide. It listens to your will. If your heart is clear, your body will follow." Daniel groaned, wiping sweat from his brow. "Clear heart? I don't even know who I really am yet." Lyra smiled gently. "You're the boy who promised to protect me under this very tree. That's who you are." Daniel paused, the memory flickering again. A small boy and a girl standing together, pinky fingers locked in a childish vow. "I promised, didn't I?" Daniel whispered. "Yes," Lyra said, stepping closer. "You said you'd always keep me safe, and I said I'd always come back for you." Daniel looked into her violet eyes, something warm rising in his chest. Despite the danger, despite the confusion of his awakening powers, being with Lyra felt right. Like a piece of him had finally come home. But peace didn't last long. One evening, alarms blared from the colony's sensors. Reese stormed into the garden where Daniel trained. "They're coming," she said grimly. "A larger force. Bigger than before." Daniel stood tall, no longer the hesitant man from days ago. How many? Too many, Reese admitted. Even with our forces, it might not be enough. Lyra looked up at Daniel. Then we have to go to the source. Daniel raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? Lyra pointed to the sky. The collectors operate from a command ship, always hidden, just outside a planet's orbit. If we can destroy it, we cut off their reinforcements. Reese shook her head. That's suicide. But Daniel's eyes gleamed with resolve. No, it's a chance. Reese stared at him, then sighed. We have a prototype ship fast enough to reach orbit without detection, but it's untested. Daniel smiled faintly. Sounds like everything in my life right now. Within hours, the plan was set. Daniel, Lyra, and a small team boarded the stealth ship. As the engines roared, Daniel looked back one last time at the silver tree, standing proud under the twin moons. Lyra sat beside him in the cockpit. You're ready, Daniel. Daniel looked at her serious. We're doing this together, she smiled warmly. Just like we promised. The ship shot through the sky, piercing through the atmosphere into space. Up above, hidden in the darkness, loomed the Collector's command ship, massive, like a dark fortress between stars. Their stealth held until the last mile. Sirens blared inside the alien ship. Weapons activated, cannons turning toward them. Daniel grinned. Guess they know we're here. Lyra stood, her body shimmering with light. Then let's make sure they never forget. They docked hard against the hull, cutting through with plasma torches. Inside, the corridors were cold and dark, lit by red lights. The Collectors were waiting, rows of armored soldiers blocking their path. Daniel stepped forward, energy crackling in his fists. I'm done running, with a roar. He charged. His body moved like a storm. Every punch shattered armor. Every kick sent enemies flying. The power of the Prime gene flowed through him, guided now by purpose, not confusion. Lyra fought beside him, blades slicing through foes. Her movements fluid and deadly. They pushed deeper into the ship, until at last they reached the core. A massive glowing engine surrounded by cables and control panels. But waiting for them was the Hunter Prime, repaired. Stronger, angrier. You should have stayed hidden, human, it growled. Daniel's eyes glowed gold. I'm done hiding. The fight was brutal. The Hunter Prime was faster, adapting to Daniel's moves. But this time, Daniel wasn't alone. Lyra joined the battle, their teamwork perfect, like two halves of one force. In a final surge, Daniel channeled everything, all his strength, all his will, into one last strike, punching straight through the Hunter Prime's chest, shattering it. The great warrior collapsed, sparks flying. With the core exposed, Daniel planted the charges. Let's finish this. They ran, escaping just as the ship shook violently. From space, the Collector's fortress exploded in a massive burst of light, a signal to the galaxy that the hunted human had fought back. Back on the colony, cheers erupted as the explosion lit the night sky. Daniel and Lyra landed safely, stepping out together. The colony was safe, for now. Under the silver tree once more, Daniel looked at Lyra. I remember now, he said. Not just who I was, but who I want to be. Lyra smiled. And who's that? Daniel took her hand gently. Someone who keeps his promises. She blushed faintly. Then keep this. 1. Daniel leaned in, their foreheads touching under the glowing leaves. A bond rekindled, stronger than any gene, any power. Together, they faced the stars. Whatever came next, Collectors, invaders, fate itself, they would face it side by side, because this time, the human wasn't alone.